Welcome to Friendsgiving with Feges BBQ. I'm Erin.
Patrick.
We own Feges BBQ in Greenwood Plaza. We're really excited to be cooking Thanksgiving with you guys today. There's a little bit more to talk about, but before we get into all the talking, I just want everybody to turn their oven on to 300. That way we can go ahead and get the ovens warming. So do that right now. And then the next thing you need to do is just grab a cooking companion, preferably somebody that you like to be in the kitchen with. If you drink, make yourself a drink, and we will get started. Okay, so a couple little quick housekeeping things. We are doing a $100 gift card for, it's a contest. So the way you enter the contest is post social media images and videos of the cooking class, you know, your dishes at the end of the class, and you have to tag PKY Houston, that's Parkway Houston, and Feges BBQ. Yes, I can speak louder. That's never a problem. All right, so I'll just repeat that real fast. If you want to enter to win a $100 gift card to Feges BBQ, post some social media pictures of the class, of your progress, of your pictures at the end with your beautiful dishes, and tag. All right. Okay.
Also, we like to see your rendition of our instructions.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that last night.
We really enjoy seeing your food that we try to explain.
Some of you guys do a really good job, and sometimes we laugh because we're like, maybe we didn't explain it very well. But okay, so we'll run through the ingredients real fast. You should have a quart of macaroni and some toasted breadcrumbs. Set those aside. Those are for a different course. You should have a bunch of stuff for dessert: banana crumble, caramel, pastry cream, tart shells, and some chantilly and a banana. Set those aside. That's for a different course. And then the main thing we're going to make is our whole hog stuffing. So you've got some really delicious poultry stock that we made at Feges BBQ. You have a pint container with celery and chopped leeks. You have some hog lard. We call this leaf lard is the fancy term for it, but I wrote hog lard because I wanted to make sure everybody knew what it was. An onion, the star of the show. You have half a pound of whole hog that's been smoked. It's already pulled and ready to go. Some sage and thyme, and 1 pound of Breadman Company's rustic country bread. So the first thing we're gonna do is pop this in the oven. So just empty the contents of your bag onto a sheet pan. Grab a sheet pan if you haven't already. And it's gonna be really rustic, but some of the pieces are a little bit big, so just use your hands, rip them up, and nothing's fancy about this. And you'll notice it's different kinds of bread. So there's a sourdough bread in here. There's a rustic French style of bread. I think there's a little bit of pain de mie, because the idea behind the tradition of stuffing was that it was just whatever you had around. And the first thing we're going to do is pop it in the oven at 300. And the reason we're doing that is you want to make the bread stale. So back in the day, you just had stale bread, but now we're so spoiled, we have to make our bread stale. And that's why the oven is very helpful. Don't season it. Don't put any olive oil on it. You're just going just plain and dry into the oven. All right, so hopefully y'all's ovens are up to temp. I'm gonna go ahead and pop mine in. And then the recipe that you got, we've made a few changes. Thank you. We've made a few changes. So we did this class yesterday. I make this recipe once a year, and I have never written down the recipe before. So I tried writing down the recipe. We kind of figured out as we were going through that there's a few things. So grab a pen. We're going to make some changes. You're going to preheat the oven to 300 instead of 250. So if you want to make that note, do that. And we're going to check the toast in 10 minutes. So be sure to set a timer. It says 5 to 10 minutes, but yesterday we learned that it actually definitely leaned more towards the 10. So we'll just start there. If you want, if you're not making this recipe right now, if you're gonna save the ingredients and do it for Thanksgiving, you can go ahead and do the bread the day before and just leave it out. So that way this whole step is already done. And if you're gonna do this for Thanksgiving, I would suggest popping, you can keep this thawed for 7 days. But if it's going to be any longer than that, I would pop this in the freezer tonight if you're not going to use it. You can freeze the stock. The hog lard will be fine in the refrigerator. Those are the main important ingredients. You can also freeze the bread. I would not freeze this. I wouldn't make the whole stuffing and then freeze it. I'm just not sure if that'll be any good. You can try it and then please let us know if it works, because about 7 people asked us that. And I would love to have had a good answer, but I just didn't know if that would work or not.
Is it better to frost in the refrigerator or room temperature?
It is always better to thaw something out in the
It is
refrigerator.
safer to thaw in the refrigerator. Now, do we thaw stuff out on our counter at home sometimes? All the time? Yes.
Well, that's
But
'cause
we also-
we don't plan ahead very well.
Yeah.
So we come home and we're like, we want chili for dinner, and the chili's in the freezer.
Yeah. Well, we also know how the safety is on the food, but yeah, it's best to do it, safest to do. You don't want to get people sick, especially nowadays. Thaw it in the fridge.
Well, this is a good segue, because a lot of people asked me when they were picking up their meal kits, what is the best way to reheat the meat, thaw the meat? Because right now all of our buy in bulk we distribute is frozen. So why don't you tell people about that?
Yeah, I mean, thaw it in the fridge. If you're in a pinch, you can thaw it under running cold water, which can be a little tough in Houston sometimes, especially the summer months. But
cold water, right?
cold water,
Absolutely
yeah,
cold
yeah,
water.
yeah. The trick is you want anything once it hits above 40 degrees, you start a clock, and you have 4 hours above 40 and below 140 for all the bad guys to grow and get you sick. So that's why you do it in the fridge, not on the counter. And then as far as reheating, if it's bagged up, you can do it in simmering water, like we're gonna do our turkey right here, or you can wrap it. Some of the stuff comes wrapped in paper, butcher paper, put it in a pan, out of the bag, on the pan, still wrapped up, and that keeps it from drying out. You can wrap it in foil if you want it. It's about trying to keep that moisture in.
Okay, so the keynotes are best to reheat in the refrigerator. So if you're trying to, best to thaw out in a refrigerator. So if you have a frozen whole butterball turkey from the grocery store, you got to give yourself like 3 to 4 days.
Take a minute,
of
pull it out of the
refrigeration
freezer, throw it in the fridge.
If you have one of our turkeys, they're about, the turkey breast is what, like 4 pounds? 4 to 5 pounds?
It depends on if you order the half or the full. The half is about 2.5. The full is about 4 pounds.
So the half turkey breast, what, like 24 hours?
Yeah,
the full,
24 hours.
48 hours. Yeah, just to be safe. So we're actually going to demo our preferred reheating method specifically for the turkey breast, but for most of our meats, especially all the chopped stuff like the pulled pork, the chopped brisket, the whole hog. If we were just reheating this, another way would be to put it in simmering water. This is a method called sous vide. It sounds really fancy because it is super fancy, and there's really expensive equipment that you can buy. But you can also the idea being that everything is cooking at an even but low temperature in simmering water. So this water is probably not more than like 165 to 170 degrees, right? So it's a lot less warm than an oven. So it gives us the opportunity to kind of like evenly heat the turkey. We're not overcooking the turkey because the water temperature is not above what we would want the internal temperature of the turkey to be. So there's all sorts of bonuses, all the juices, everything that's trapped inside that vacuum sealed bag gets you don't lose any of that. You kind of retain all of that, and then it's super hot.
Apparently it was a bit of a volume issue, so
Okay.
I don't know if we can do anything on the camera.
Let's see.
That might help a little bit. So what we just did, guys, is we just dropped our vacuum sealed half turkey breast into the pot with simmering water. So it's not boiling, you want it to just be simmering. And one thing I like to do is I use my pasta pot because I have this mesh insert. And so that way, as the turkey breast settles, it's settling into the mesh insert and not directly onto the bottom of the pan where it might get too hot. All right.
Before we get started, let's go over utensils so they're not digging as they're talking. What are we going to use throughout this class so they can take this moment to get it ready?
It's a good idea. You guys are benefiting so much from the mistakes we made yesterday.
As we were pulling spoons out in the middle of class ourselves.
Oh, speaking of, okay, so we have 2 spoons. We're not really sure what we're going to use them for, but we definitely will use them. We have some wooden spoons, just great for general cooking, so we don't scrape our pans up too much.
How much water is in the pot?
Enough to submerge.
Yeah, this is filled up to here, so it's not filled all the way to the top. And just remember that your contents are going to displace the water, so you want to make sure you don't fill it all the way up. It's like getting into the bathtub. You want to leave room, but just enough to make sure it's covered. So depending on what you're reheating, you just want to kind of gauge how much space you're going to need in the pot. So if I was trying to warm up more meats, like if I was adding the whole hog, I have plenty of room in here. I could add it in without adding any more water. Couple other utensils you might need. Some kind of a pastry brush. This is to season our pan with the hog fat. So if you don't have a pastry brush, that's not a big deal at all, because you could also use a paper towel. That's what my mom used to do.
So we're cooking, we're going to cook stuff in a saute pan. So you need a saute pan. You need a bowl to mix stuffing.
Oh yeah. So we don't have a very large mixing bowl, because just like you guys, we don't have a commercial kitchen type equipment at our house. So this is actually a really fancy bowl that's more of a display bowl, but this is going to be our mixing bowl for the stuffing.
And then for the mac and cheese, what are we putting that in?
For the mac and cheese, it's really your choice. It's about what you guys have. We have this perfect cast iron. This is like the right size for 1 quart of macaroni. If you are buying macaroni from us, it comes in a half pan. And so it's a lot more than this 1 quart, but this will be perfect for today. And this way we can put it in the oven.
You can use a small casserole dish tonight. What are we cooking the stuffing in?
This is like our favorite thing. We just like to show it off. This is a Staub pan. It is a cast iron enamel cookware that we use anytime guests come over, because we're like, look at our Staub. And then you can like put the lid on it, and then when you're serving people, you take the lid off.
Again, any casserole dish roughly this size will work.
Rectangular,
So,
like 9 by 13 would be perfect.
And then what else? You're gonna need a knife. Obviously, we're doing some cutting and a cutting block.
Yeah.
And you're gonna need scissors.
Oh, we didn't get scissors out.
We're gonna need scissors for when we do the dessert. You're gonna have to cut the bag. So
Yeah.
give you guys a second to get all that
Grab
ready.
all your mise en place. Mise en place is fancy French culinary term for all the things that you're cooking with. So your food, your equipment. So we've got all our mise en place. You guys can gather yours. And we've got 1 minute left on our 10-minute timer for the bread. How was it looking?
It's getting there.
Okay.
A lot better than yesterday when our oven shut off.
Yeah. It's a true story. All right, I'm gonna turn the timer off and add, what do you think, 2 minutes?
3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes, so you guys know, we're going on 13 minutes
13.
toasting our bread. And this is a good time to start the rest of the preparation for the stuffing. So we're gonna get our saute pan hot. I'm gonna turn it on high. We're not gonna cook the whole time on high, but we want to have a really hot pan. And in that pan is gonna go our chopped celery and leeks and an onion that, guess what? We're gonna chop together. So we can do that. And the whole hog. And everything that we're cooking, we're using the hog lard as our cooking fat. If you don't want to use the hog lard, by all means, just use some olive oil or cooking oil. Whatever you have is great. But we thought this is really great. It adds a lot of like savory, really good smoky flavor to the dish.
It's a byproduct of cooking the whole pig too, so that way we're using the whole pig. It's more sustainable.
Yeah. So the first thing we're gonna do in the pan is we're gonna crisp up our whole hog. So a lot of traditional stuffing recipes use bacon or sausage. This is our bacon and sausage, and it's 1,000 times better. So I'm just gonna cut the bag open. And then I use my sink as my trash can until the end.
They're not supposed to take out the bread yet, right?
Not yet.
If your bread is ready, take it out. So you want it to be like a crouton texture. You want it to be dried out. You don't want it to get too much color, but you really want to kind of dry the bread out. So if your bread's ready, don't wait on us. Pull it out. And we have about 1 minute and 15 seconds left anyways. So you want your pan to get super hot before you, feels pretty hot. I think it's ready.
There you go.
Yeah. So we're gonna put just a little bit of the lard down first.
A little bit.
I was impressed we didn't use all of it yesterday. I almost thought we didn't give you guys enough.
What would you suggest using extra lard for? Just
Anything.
Yeah?
Anything baked. So if you're making cornbread as a side for your Thanksgiving meal, save some of that hog lard and use that as one of your fats.
Gus wants to know what meat package you just opened.
That's the ½ pound of whole hog that you should have in your kit. So I just sliced the bag open, and we're gonna sear off. You're basically just crisping it up, cooking it like you would bacon. We want to get a really good crisp on the hog. Essentially, it just adds texture. So the components of bread pudding, if you're not careful, it can be just kind of mushy, right? So you want to have crispy components to it, and that's what we want the hog to be. So it's gonna provide a lot of flavor, but also a really important textural component to the stuffing. So that's our timer for the bread. So we're gonna check the bread. It's really close. I'm gonna go, just because I'm being super picky and because ours didn't turn out very well yesterday because our oven turned off, and our neighbors are gonna have this stuffing tomorrow. I want to make sure it's perfect. So I'm gonna go another 2 minutes.
So that's 15 minutes total.
15 minutes total, and that's a nicer rounder number. So while he's crisping up
So
the
we're
hog,
crisping up the pig, and you know it wants to stick to the bottom of the pan. You're just gonna scrape that off because you want the crispy part. That's part of what we're doing. Just scrape it off. We're gonna deglaze it later, so that will eventually all come off. But make sure you keep stirring it so it doesn't completely stick and burn. If you feel like it's getting a little dry in there, you can always add a little bit more fat.
essentially the fat that cooks out of the hog, we're just adding it back in. That's kind of where it was meant to be. All right, so while he's doing that, we're gonna go ahead and chop up this onion.
They said take out the bread when it is crouton texture, and then they add 3 minutes to their 10-minute timer. So I guess maybe just explain what the crouton texture should be like.
Yeah, so like croutons that you add to a salad. So you're gonna have bread that's kind of firm, makes a crunchy sound if you were to like pinch it down, super dried out. If you feel like your bread is at that point, go ahead and take it out of the oven, set it aside, and we're gonna do the other components for the stuffing, and then we'll toss the bread in. So if your bread is like a crouton texture, pull it out, it's ready to go. Our oven's just taking its sweet time. This always happens.
Yeah, it's hard to put a time on something like that because everyone's oven is different. Some might be done in 10 minutes. We're gonna take ours to 15. It all kind of depends on what you're cooking on at home.
If you have a convection oven, yours is probably gonna go a little bit faster because the fan component of the convection is gonna also help dry out the bread inside.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this down to medium high, and I'm almost done with the pork.
Do you wanna show them what it looks like with the crispy bit? I like saying crispy bit.
See, it's kind of sticking. You can just scrape all that off. You can see crispy bits right there. So this is just about done. I'm gonna take a little bit further. And then she's gonna pull out the bread because that timer just went off.
Yep. All right, so I've got a little landing pad for the bread. And I'll show you what we're talking about. So hopefully. So this is, it's definitely dry on the outside. It didn't get any color. That's fine. We don't really want color. But it's definitely dry on the outside and it has a little bit of a crunch to it in my hands. So I don't know if you can hear that, but you can see it, right? Like it's breaking apart. That's how dry the bread is. So that's what you're going for. And if you feel like some of your bread is more dried out, then just, you know, mix it up a little bit and pop it back in for a few minutes. But ours is done, ours is ready. So we'll leave that out. That looks glorious.
So I'm gonna pull this off and throw this in the bowl. We're gonna mix everything else in.
Well, you got to deglaze, and I'm upgrading.
Well, we're gonna deglaze it with stock.
No. Really?
Yeah, 'cause they have stock.
Okay, he's playing by all the right rules. You
Those
guys?
looks like a great alternative to like a Philly cheesesteak.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Or like a Cubano.
Yeah.
So Aaron wants to deglaze with wine, but we gave you guys stock, so we're gonna do what you guys are gonna do. So
But if you have white wine at home, I suggest white, not red. But if you have white wine at home and you want to deglaze with the wine, you can do that too.
So I'm gonna throw, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a cup, a tablespoon, just enough to release the sticky bits on the bottom of the pan. I mean, next to nothing.
Hashtag sticky bits. Sticky bits are where it's at. So all of it's just coming right off of the pan now that you put that liquid in
So
there.
yeah, you're gonna scrape all that off. And see, there's no liquid in there because it evaporates and kind of soaks into the pork. But what it did is release all that stuff that was stuck to the bottom of the pan. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna throw it in the bowl. We're gonna mix everything in.
Yep.
And then we're going to cut an onion.
Cut an onion. Okay, so the onion. Everybody has a whole onion. So this part where you see the root, that's the part you want to cut up. So you're going to go right, cut it in half from the root. And then we start with the first half. And we're just doing like a small dice cut, so it's not scientific. If you go a little bit too big, that's fine. It'll all cook and be delicious anyways. But we cut this way, then we cut this way, and now we're going to protecting our fingers so everything important stays behind the blade. And then we're gonna get our nice small dice. And our pan should be hot. We still have, no, you turned it off. You've got to turn it back on. I might have to find a new cooking assistant. So you want to keep that same pan.
Put it on medium.
Yeah, it should already be hot enough so you don't need it on high anymore. Man, these onions get me every time.
And more lard.
Always,
Yeah.
always more lard.
Add more lard to the pan, or oil. If you add lard to the pan while you're cutting the onion, that'll prevent any leftover pork in there from burning while we finish the onion. Real quick, explain what you're doing with that second half. So you're cutting down, but you're not cutting all the way down, right?
I'm not cutting all the way down. I'm leaving it intact at the root. That helps. It just makes it a little bit easier to cut so you don't have as much of the vegetable moving around. So you'll see everything's almost,
Yes.
Yeah, the meat's out of the pan. It's in our bowl resting. And I'm crying because I'm having such a lovely time. You guys have been so much fun to spend Thanksgiving with.
So show them that before you do the cross cut. So we cut it this way, we cut it this way. The onion's still intact, but now we're gonna dice it.
It may not look like it here, but my nickname in the kitchen is the mandolin because I have really good knife skills. And Patrick's nickname is the hatchet.
They just hack away at stuff.
Try to use as much of the onion as you can.
But don't throw the little root part in there because that's not gonna be enjoyable.
Yeah. All right. So all of my onion is cut up. And I used this mat, you might have been wondering. This mat just keeps the cutting board from sliding around. It's also a good hot pad for when we pull the bread out, although we already did that. Is it hot and ready to go?
Yep.
Okay, so first thing we're gonna do, make sure the pan's hot, drop the onions in. It's gonna sound like a professional kitchen with all the beautiful sizzling. We added some hog fat into the pan, that's what we're cooking with. So we'll let that cook for a little bit. And then while he's sauteing that, so I'd say maybe 3 minutes with just the onions, and then we're gonna add the celery and leeks in and we'll cook it all together. But while we're letting that cook, I've got this pan back here, this pot. This is our gravy that I'm just warming up. So we cooked this yesterday, and we're warming it up to go with the turkey that we have in our simmering water bath. So in case you were wondering what that was doing back there. But all in the same pan, so all that really good hog flavor from the crispy hog. What did we say? Sticky bits?
Sticky bits.
Sticky bits. All the sticky bits. Well, now we're using the sticky bits to cook the onions in. And this is also a really good time to turn your oven up, not off. That's what we did yesterday. We accidentally turned the oven off. We didn't know we did it. So you're going to turn your oven up to 375. So everybody do that now. So you're going up from 300 to 375 if your bread is out. If your bread is not out, then your oven probably turned itself off too, and you should check on that. But so now oven's going up to 375. There's nothing in the oven now, but it's going up to 375. That's for the second part of the stuffing. And Patrick looks like he is about ready to add some stuff.
So the onions are here, just starting to get a little bit translucent. You can see it picked up some more of that
sticky bits.
So we're gonna add the celery and the leeks that we went ahead and cut for you.
In case you wanted to know, this is the hatchet's work.
I didn't cut those.
Yeah, you did. Not the leeks. The hatchet's brother cut the leeks, and the hatchet cut the celery.
Okay.
And the mandolin cut the onion.
So this is gonna take a little bit more longer to get it where we want it. Maybe about 5-6 minutes, because this just really cooled down the pan. But I'm gonna leave the heated medium because we're gonna move on to the herbs. So while this is slowly cooking, stir it occasionally, and we're gonna work on the herbs.
Yeah, the herbs took a lot longer than I thought. I'm out of practice. This was my intern job at Per Se. I picked all the herbs. I haven't done it in a while. So this is thyme. I'm sure you already knew that. So the best way to prep the thyme is just to take your fingers, pinch it towards the top, but where the stem is still sturdy, and then just pull down. So just like that. Nice and easy. So go ahead and do all the thyme. If you've got a lot of helpers in the kitchen, you can do the thyme and the sage at the same time. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the sage as well. But don't worry, we're not going to get too far ahead because we know if you don't have a bunch of helpers in the kitchen, then this might take a minute. So go ahead and just pick some of your sage leaves. I'm a little OCD, so I always do them in order of size. I also think it helps with cutting them. So the little ones I'm going to keep to the side. And I'm throwing all the stems in the sink because they're going to go down the disposal, and our kitchen's going to smell really nice. Okay. Big leaves make it easy. I didn't pack this, so I didn't give ourselves a good bundle on purpose, but we definitely got a good bundle. Okay, so big leaves on top, little leaves on bottom, and then we're going to what we call chiffonade. So again, protect your fingertips by keeping them safely behind the blade, and the front of the blade never leaves the cutting board, and you're just rocking back and forth, moving your hands. Your hand is the guide, so you're just moving your hand down, allowing the blade to cut a little bit more of your sage. And then you can do it as you get more comfortable. You can do it quickly. There you are. This is chiffonade. With basil. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chiffonade. I guess we can add the bread to the bowl too. So we'll add our herbs in, and I'll keep doing my thyme leaves because I want to get all the good herbs. So I'll keep picking these thyme leaves. I'm still crying from the onion, so
All right,
sorry.
so I'm going to show you the veg real quick. This is where we're at. I'm going to go just a couple more minutes. I mean, I guess the correct culinary term is we're sweating them, where you're cooking them to just translucent. Any further, they're going to start sauteing it. You don't want to cook them down too much because they're still going to bake it, right? And it's going to break down. So you still want a little bit of bite to it. This thing needs maybe 2 more minutes. And then when you're done, we're going to add it to the pork mixture. Everything's going in this bowl.
So yesterday, a lot of people were asking us about other vegetables that you could add. And I thought it was the most fun part of the class because then we just started thinking of all the millions of things that you could do that would be great or good substitutions.
Well, what's great about this recipe is it's a base. You can add, she tried to add wine to it instead of stock.
Except you wouldn't let me.
You can add cheese to it. You can add any vegetable you want to it as long as it's, you know, cooked down and ready to go in there.
But some of the vegetables we said yesterday that I thought were really great, parsnips, because parsnips are fall. It's fall in a vegetable. Parsnips look like white carrots. They have a really good nutty, sweet quality to them. So as you cook them, they caramelize beautifully because they have a pretty good amount of natural sugar. And I think that's a great addition. You could do celery root, which is another really, really good fall veg. It's the root of celery, believe it or not. And it tastes like celery, but it's starchier. So it's got good texture and it roasts really well. Fennel would be really good. Fennel, if you want to add a little bit of that anise flavor. Carrots could work, but you know, parsnips are better than carrots.
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms would be great. And if you add mushrooms, you can saute those on their own and get them nice and crispy in your pork fat or olive oil. If you want to add different herbs, you could do rosemary. I think rosemary would be a really good addition. Okay, so I've got all my thyme, so I'm adding my thyme in.
All right, so we'll add the bread and then we'll add the veg.
Yeah, we throw that out. Thank you.
So we'll put this.
All right, so I'm just adding, and hopefully you can hear how dry the bread is. It's just clanking when it hits the bowl, which is exactly what you want. Okay, get that. And then I'm gonna mix all this up. I'm using my hands. I like cooking with my hands.
All right, so she's gonna mix that up. You can use a spoon instead of your hands if you want. Right before we throw the veg in, we're gonna deglaze the pan again with more stock or white wine, but we're gonna use stock because that's what we did, you guys. And again, that's just getting every last little bit of anything that was stuck. You can use about half a cup. So the 3 cups we gave you, we're down to just over 2 cups left. And we're gonna add that to this, but once all the veg is in there.
And I'm gonna add, we haven't seasoned anything yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and add just like a little bit of salt and some ground black pepper. And then as we toss all the ingredients in, those seasonings will get her very well incorporated.
Okay, so this is what the veg looks like. It's got a little bit more liquid in it because I just added the stock. But you can see it's just hitting that part where it's starting to get translucent. It's not browning because that's not what we're trying to do because we're going to keep cooking it. So we're going to add this directly to the bread. And you can see right here, there's nothing stuck to this because that we deglazed it. So we got all that little crispy stuff and that's all good flavor.
So quick note, now that you've added your hot veg, probably not a good idea to go in with your bare hands because it'll be hot. So now I'm grabbing a spoon and before I add any more liquid, the key to making a proper stuffing is you add your liquid slowly, incrementally, because you want to make sure that you're adding just the right amount of liquid and you want it to absorb into the bread. And so the best way to do that is a little bit at a time, stir it up, see where we're at. So since we have a little bit of liquid mixed with the veggies, I want to kind of see where we're starting. So that's pretty well incorporated. And now I'm going to add about half a cup to a cup of the stock. Our stock is just cold. Well, it's room temperature now because we pulled it out of the refrigerator right before the class started. But it's not warm. It could be warm. We had some people ask yesterday. There are certainly a lot of stuffing recipes where they do recommend that you use warm. I've never found that it makes much of a difference. So ours is not warm. But if that's how you like to do it, then by all means, use warm stock. But you're going to add about a cup, stir it up. What you want to avoid is any liquid pooling at the bottom of your bowl. So as you can see, we do not have that yet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to keep slowly adding and try to avoid that pooling of liquid. But as soon as you get the pooling of liquid, that's when it's time to stop adding.
So the whole point of drying out the bread in the oven is so it can absorb more stock. So it's just a way to add more flavor to this. Instead of the bread flavor, you're getting the chicken stock flavor. So that's the whole reason why we dried out the bread.
Yeah, we made it thirsty. And then we're quenching its thirst slowly, teasing it a little bit, just a little bit at a time.
Just waiting for more lard.
Right?
Right.
There is going to be more lard.
We're not done with the lard yet.
There is more lard. You're right.
So you can go by feel. You can pick a couple pieces up and see like this one feels good, but then this one's still a little dry. So this one's even drier. So this one's even more dry. So it obviously needs more stock, but you can feel it to see how much more you need to add.
Okay, so I'm adding a little bit more. I'm not going to go all the way because I think we're close. Just a little bit left. And this is, again, it's like our hands are some of like the best sensory neurons we have. And so your hands are always going to tell you when it's time. My spoon doesn't tell me anything. So yeah, get in there with your hands, feel the bread. It's wet, it's perfect, it's moist, but I think some of my bread's a little bit dry. I'm going to add the last little bit.
So just because we're using all the stock doesn't mean you guys are. Obviously, we're cooking on different ovens, different equipment. Even the bread you guys each got is a little bit different from the next bag. So just because we use all the stock doesn't mean you are going to. And then also, she seasoned it already, but taste it. See if it needs more salt or pepper. It doesn't, but.
All right. I think this is perfect. So we're going to set it aside, let it kind of soak up a little bit more. And while we do that, there's more lard. We're going to season our pan. So whether you have a rectangular glass pan, a casserole pan, or a pan like this. What we're gonna do is take some of our hog lard, and we've got a pastry brush, but will you grab a paper towel? Because I want to show everybody just how easy it is. I mean, I grew up thinking that a paper towel was how you seasoned all bakeware.
And if you don't want to use a lard, use nonstick spray or a little bit of oil.
See, easy peasy. My mom would be very proud. Only she didn't use lard, she used shortening. Everything was seasoned with shortening. Okay. So just, you know, as generous as you want to be, this will help keep the stuffing from sticking. It also flavor's good. Okay, that's good. I can throw that away. Thanks. And then,
So before you throw it in the pot, in the pan, at this point, whatever you're gonna add to it, if you're gonna add cheese, you're gonna add different herbs, different veg, you're all gonna add that. If you wanna change this recipe a little bit and do different ingredients, you're gonna have that mixed in before it hits the pan.
yeah, before you put it in there. So everything, you could add nuts to. Gosh, there's so many things you can put in there. You can do different breads. You can do cornbread, dried cranberries.
Cheese.
We've done cheese. Cheese is actually a really great thing to add. It just, my recommendation is Gruyere. It's a nice nutty Alpine cheese, but it's also a really good melty cheese. So it's got the best of both worlds, like that dry nuttiness. And don't flatten it. You want it to have some texture. And then you also want to make sure you get all the good stuff, all the sticky bits out of the bowl. I absolutely love the way leek smells. All right, so just like that. And then we're going to come back with our lard, because there's never enough lard, and just brush it on top. So this is going to help when we're going to cook it partially with a covering, so you could use foil. We're going to put our lid on, but foil would be what I would do if I wasn't baking with a pan that had a lid. And so we'll cook it partially with the lid on, so the fat's just going to kind of melt in. But also when we take the lid off and we go let it get a little crispy and give it some color, it's going to help really crisp up those top parts of the stuffing. And if you have any additional herb, you can sprinkle that on top right now too. Are there any questions about the stuffing process so far? I want to make sure we're not moving too fast. How long do we put this in the oven? Let's see. I think we're going to go for about 20 minutes. Yeah, 20 minutes is our start time. So I'm going to go ahead and put my lid on, and we're going to pop it in the oven for 20 minutes. It's not going to be done in 20 minutes. That's just the first step. While we've got that working,
Don't forget to set your timer.
don't forget to set your timer. And now is a really great time to grab the pan that you're going to use for the macaroni, and grab your quart of macaroni and your partially toasted breadcrumbs. So I toasted these with a little bit of olive oil and salt so the breadcrumbs are seasoned. But I didn't toast them all the way because we're putting them back in the oven. So I wanted to make sure that we didn't burn the breadcrumbs in the oven. So just using a spoon, this is already all mixed. This is the Pimento Mac and Cheese that we sell at Feges BBQ. So some of you are probably familiar with it. We're gonna cover this with foil. So will you grab some foil? We forgot to mention that at the beginning. If you don't have foil, just something you can cover it with to protect it in the oven. And then get all the good cheese stuff at the bottom. All right. And then just, for now, we're not going to put the breadcrumbs on yet, but we are going to cover it with foil and then pop it in the same oven that our stuffing is in. And what we're doing is we're just heating up the cheese. We're getting it nice and ooey gooey again, and then we'll take the foil off, add the breadcrumbs, and pop it back in the oven.
How long would you say? About 7-8 minutes?
Yeah, so
So we're at 18 minutes left on the bread pudding, or I'm sorry, the stuffing. So we're gonna go 8 minutes on the mac and cheese. So when this hits 10 minutes left, we'll check the mac and cheese. And I know at least one of you was upset that you didn't get the recipe for mac and cheese. We'll give you the recipe. It's just a 5-gallon recipe.
Cookbook coming out soon.
Should they grease the mac and cheese dish?
We didn't. You can. I don't know that it really needs it. That it's not going to stick.
You're not baking it. You're just heating it up. So yeah, you shouldn't worry about it sticking.
But if you have hog lard and you wanted to line your pan with it, I honestly don't think that that would be anything but delicious. I don't think you can go wrong.
But if you guys want to make pimento mac and cheese at home, just take your favorite mac and cheese recipe, and when it says use cheddar cheese, just substitute pimento cheese, or you can just add roasted red bell peppers to it. That's what we do. We make the sauce, and it's just basically cream, milk, and pimento cheese that we make ourselves.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy mac and cheese recipe. It's delicious, and what I like about it is the cheese stays a good temperature, or like a good consistency, even when it starts to cool off a little bit. Okay, so
Could they cover the stuffing with parchment paper if they're out of foil?
Yeah, parchment paper. Oven safe paper would be fine. So parchment paper should work just fine. And then I just grabbed all the mise en place, fancy term again, for the dessert that we're making. So just as a refresher, you should have banana crumble and some caramel. And it should be a little bit runny like that. That's perfect. Pastry cream. There you go. Thank you. And your tart shells. So most of you have 6 small tart shells, just like this. A few of you might have gotten 4 tart shells that are larger. So they'll both work. If you're using the 4 tart shells, you might need a little bit more filling, but we have plenty provided, so that's not going to be an issue.
Just real quick, someone asked if the mac and cheese and the stuffing go in the oven at the same time, which I know yes, but is there a difference in timing? They should be careful with.
Yeah. So everything's going to kind of rest once we pull it out. It's the first part of the stuffing is 20 minutes. First part of the mac and cheese is 8 minutes. They can go in at the same time. We put the mac and cheese a couple minutes after the stuffing.
Not on purpose. We did that just because it took us time to get that done.
Yeah. So just 20 minutes stuffing, 8-ish minutes mac and cheese, and we'll check the mac. There's a good chance that we go a little bit longer.
Are there any nuts in the dessert?
No, there are no nuts in the dessert. If you're severely allergic, the tart shells are prepared in a kitchen where they may come in contact with nuts, but nuts are not an ingredient. And same with everything else. Yeah, so you should be fine. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do, I have a little plate. This is what I'm serving the dessert on. So just grab a plate that you're gonna serve your dessert on, and then we're gonna thinly slice pieces of banana. Yesterday I did 2 slices per tart, but I think I'm gonna try to do more because the banana is my favorite part. And so this way we can get as much as we can. So just as thin as you can go, don't stress out over it. But the thinner you go, the more layers you can do of banana in the tart. And then, oh, I forgot to mention, you should also have your piping bag of chantilly out because that is part of the dessert as well. And banana is a really good thing to practice your knife skills with because it's soft, so it's easy to work with. It's pretty forgiving. All right, I think I've got enough, but I'm gonna do just a few more.
How long does it take bananas to start going brown, like when you cut them when they're open? Or is that when they're thinner pieces, are they less apt to get brown as quickly?
So if we were just leaving them out, these would be brown in probably an hour.
Okay.
We're gonna cover it, so it's gonna go in the tart shell at the bottom. So it's like caramel, then we'll do the banana. So the banana is protected from oxidization because it is protected from oxygen. So you've got a little bit more time, but I think if you wanted to make these ahead of time, you could probably get away with doing them about 2 days before most. But then everything is going to kind of start to actually like absorb into the tart shell and it'll soften. So I'm just going to put my 6 tart shells in my pan. The first step, now that we've got our banana sliced, is we're going to take our caramel and just evenly distribute it into the 6 tart shells, just using a spoon. And we do this, we knew we wanted caramel in our tarts. We found that the caramel kind of protects the tart shell from getting too soft early on. So if you want to do the caramel on top, we saw some people submit some photos yesterday with the caramel on top and it looked really awesome. So don't hesitate to do that. Take some creative liberties with your desserts.
Maybe nothing lard on top though, right? Or is that still?
Hey, I mean, I have nothing. If you want to put lard on top of your banana cream pie, it's a free country.
Each of their own. There's a barbecue guy in South Carolina or North Carolina, Sam Jones, and he says he likes to say he's 3rd generation pitmaster, whole hog, and he likes to say that his parents used to put pork lard in his bottle when he was a baby, so that he'd get the taste for it. So he would take over the restaurant someday.
We tried that with Wyatt. He didn't like it.
There's a question.
It was just, do the tarts need to be in a pan, but I said no on a plate.
No, on a plate's fine. You can put it on the plate you're going to serve it on. The tarts will sit. They're good sitting out for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. If you're going to serve it later, you can put it in after we build it, you can put it in the fridge. They definitely, we feel, are a little bit better when they're closer to room temp. You pull it right out of the fridge. It's just a little too cold. So if you want to recreate this in the future, just kind of think about that.
We're a house divided, I think, because I like them cold. I don't know. They're good either way. I feel like when they're cold, the pastry cream is a little bit more set, but we're talking apples here. So, okay. So I just used the same spoon and spread that out a little bit. And now,
So we're coming up on 10 minutes. So we're going to check on the macaroni.
okay, so we're taking a break from pastry.
So here, just looking at it, it looks like it's still cold. It's about room temperature on top. So we're going to throw this in maybe 6 more minutes. So our timer, we have 10 minutes left on the bread. So when the timer hits 4 minutes, we're going to check on the macaroni again.
Should we put the breadcrumbs on it though?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go back to the next step of, we're back to pies again. So the next step for pies is we are going to layer banana in there. So I'm putting 3 bananas. Yesterday we did 2, but like I said, I just thought it needed a little bit more delicious banana flavor. And do that in each one of them. Okay. And the best part is if there's some banana left over, you can just snack on it because you should always be eating while you're cooking. Okay, last one. We have a few left over. Okay, I'm just gonna get this out of the way and wipe my hands off. Okay, so I've got the caramel on bottom, bananas went on next, just really thinly sliced. And now I'm grabbing my pastry cream and using a fresh spoon. I am going to, so this is kind of like the texture of like a creme anglaise. It's just a thickened cream and it smells amazing. So I'm just gonna spoon a little bit in, and it's soft enough that it'll fill in all the gaps. So before you add more, just kind of let it settle. Go on to the next one. If you think you need to go back and add more, you always can, but you don't want to overfill it. And you're gonna have some pastry cream left over, and that's not a bad thing because the pastry cream is really good just to eat on its own. So fill in the holes. Okay. How are y'all's coming along? Pretty good. And then once I'm done with my 6 tart shell, I'm actually gonna, this might need a little bit more. Now that's good. So once I'm done with the 6 tart shell, I'm just gonna put my spoon away. And then now we're gonna take our piping bag of chantilly, which is fancy for whipped cream. I'm gonna cut, hope you guys can see that. I'm gonna cut it about right there. Can't really mess this up, so don't be too worried about it. And then I'm gonna just pipe a little bit of the chantilly on top of each one. Oh, there we go. And you should have a little bit left over. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take our banana crumble, which is banana chips, sugar, butter, just mixed together and then baked off and then made into a crumble. And I'm just going to top it with, so yeah, I overfilled this one, so that'll kind of show you. So it's going to overflow. It's not a big deal. It'll still taste delicious. And then, so this is where Patrick and I have to settle our differences. It could either go straight on the table and we could serve it room temperature. It would be really good that way. Or we could put it in the refrigerator and pull it out and serve it chilled. So either one will work. You cannot go wrong here. But I think I'm gonna give this one to Patrick and let him just put it on the table.
So just one last, that's roughly what it looks like. See, obviously, like she said, she overfilled it a little bit.
Still gonna taste good.
Still gonna taste the same. It's gonna taste just like that one. And we're gonna put this on the table.
Excellent. So I'm gonna pull the macaroni and cheese out. This is a good time to throw on our breadcrumbs, and I'm just gonna go directly onto my silicone mat. Those two are calling your name. Oh man, glad you'd eat those for sure. And then,
So you can feel it to see if it's hot. You can stick a spoon in or a knife in there.
well, it's gonna go back in for
Yeah,
a while. It's definitely gonna be hot by the time you serve it. So I like to use all the breadcrumbs. I love the texture. If you don't want to use all the breadcrumbs, don't. It's totally a preference thing. Remember that your pan is very hot. So we're going to put it back in uncovered. Very important. You do not want to recover your pan. So we're going to add the breadcrumbs, leave it uncovered, and pop it back in the oven. And we've got 5 minutes left on our timer. But since I'm just going to, instead of opening the door one more time, I'm just going to go ahead and take my lid off now, and we'll go ahead and do 15 minutes. I'm going to cancel the timer and do 15 minutes. So that's 15 minutes uncovered for our stuffing and 15 minutes uncovered for our macaroni and cheese. Now is a really good time. If you've got questions, throw them at us. We are also, I think, ready to pull our turkey out and show you guys, we can slice up some of the turkey. We can get our gravy in a gravy boat, which is like the most official way to serve gravy. I felt like an adult when we got a gravy boat. Okay, so our turkey's been in the water for, about an hour, maybe a little less than an hour, but I think the maximum amount of, or the minimum amount of time you really need your turkey to be in the water is probably about 40 minutes.
You just uncovered the bread, correct?
Yeah, the stuffing should be uncovered and the mac and cheese should be uncovered. So everything in your oven right now should be uncovered. Breadcrumbs should be on your macaroni and cheese as well. So because the water is pretty hot, pulling it out using tongs and a towel. And then I'm gonna set it over here for Patrick. He's probably gonna want it to cool.
Well, yeah, let's get a couple minutes to rest. So if you have any questions, it's a little bit of a lull. If you have any questions, hit us with your questions. We might be going a little fast, so this gives you guys a chance to kind of catch up too.
Yeah.
Let us know how you're doing. Let us know how we're doing.
I want to know what's everybody's favorite food at Thanksgiving time. Mine is stuffing. That's why we're doing stuffing in this class. What's yours?
Whipped cream with a side of pumpkin pie.
Sour pastry cream is delicious.
The pastry cream is delicious. Yes, that might be my second favorite thing at Thanksgiving.
I think
It's
the
just a
other
bowl of pastry
day
cream.
we took one of those tart shells and filled it with chantilly,
That's
and
what
only chantilly, and ate that.
That's what I'm doing on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We've got a few tart shells
I would
extra.
like to know what's the most memorable you've had that someone else made for you.
Meal?
Oh,
Or
that's
I
a
think
big
maybe
question.
Thanksgiving?
I've got an answer. My grandmother, my stepmom's mom is Italian. Her last name is Lolly, but we call her Lolly. So she's always been Lolly. And growing up, she made ravioli. That was their traditional Thanksgiving meal. They didn't do like the turkey and the stuffing and everything. So when my dad and stepmom got married and we started going over to Lolly's house for Thanksgiving, it was always like the main course was a bowl of ravioli cooked in broth because they were Northern Italians. And it was just so delicious and, you know, unconventional for Thanksgiving. And we still, you know, we're not celebrating Thanksgiving with my grandmother this year, but we do have a bag of her ravioli frozen. So we will still be able to eat some ravioli on Thanksgiving. But that's like our family tradition, which is kind of fun. Do you guys have a tradition?
No. Yeah, we just sit around the table and just make fun of each other.
Patrick has 3 brothers and a sister. So
Yeah, so it's
it's contentious.
yeah, no, I mean, my favorite Thanksgiving meal, I think, is just any meal from when I was a kid, and my grandmother and great-grandmother were still around cooking for us, and it was just, I wouldn't say the food was memorable, it was just the fact that my great-grandmother and my grandmother were cooking, and it was a spread of everything, including the gelatinous canned cranberry.
Like still
in
in
the
its
shape of
form.
a
I love that.
Yeah.
I never ate cranberry sauce that way.
Oh, it's amazing. But it's, I mean, it's 2 Southern women just throwing out a spread for the whole family. And it's just, Thanksgiving is more, unfortunately, this year you can't do it. But for me, it's more about getting the family together and just enjoying yourself and then watching the Cowboys lose.
He used to be a Cowboys
I grew up a
fan.
Cowboys
I was gonna
fan.
say, he has a blanket.
Now, unfortunately, I'm a
Cowboys
Texans
blanket.
fan.
Yeah.
What else? We got a few more minutes. So.
Ashley ate it right before dinner, so it's amazing.
Yay.
Jessica's favorite dish is sweet potato casserole. And,
Sweet potato casserole
I was
is
just saying it's delicious. I guess whatever she's trying.
That reminds me, it's, you know, after I grew up and moved out, the street I grew up on, they started doing a potluck. All the neighbors went to one house and brought something, and the house that we always ate at, they did a sweet potato casserole, and it was, I mean, it was, again, another feast. There was a whole street of people in and out of that house eating food. It was amazing.
So we got married 4 years ago in September, and then the first Thanksgiving after we got married, we hosted, and we just invited all of our friends, and we said, we know you're gonna be doing stuff with family, so it's like an open door, just come in. Door opens at 2. Doors don't close until midnight. Like, and we went all out. Patrick killed a turkey, so we had wild turkey smoked. We bought a turkey just in case the wild turkey didn't work out. But the wild turkey was phenomenal. In fact, like all of the meat was dark meat. It was so good. But we had a second turkey, and we did smoked Hasselback sweet potatoes, which we were gonna do on our menu at Greenway, but it was so labor intensive. I mean, you have to sit there and just like very finely slice all these sweet potatoes and then smoke them and then fry them, and then it would never have worked, but maybe we'll do it as a special.
Will would like to know if you have any secret favorite places to eat out in Houston.
A lot.
Ooh, so here's the deal. We have never been to Cote d'Ivoire where we didn't see another chef eating.
Yeah, that's
That
our
is
favorite
like
restaurant.
that is every chef in the city. That is their favorite restaurant.
Wow.
Cote d'Ivoire.
The food is impeccably prepared. It's just technically on point.
And Ryan Parrott is the most underrated chef in the city. He's probably the most talented chef in the city.
I really like Cotto Robata.
Riel.
Riel's
Ryan
Patrick's
Leshane.
favorite. Yeah.
Which is just great every time I go. It's a fun, right? It's one of those fun restaurants.
Yeah. Polly's is one of my favorite restaurants. And we talked about that if you watched the last class, because we used Polly's pasta. I just think, I mean, their food's not crazy. They're not doing anything that's going to like blow your mind, but it's just, I always feel at home there. The food is so consistent. I crave it. I love their pasta. I used to eat there probably twice a week. Obviously, the pandemic's kind of changed our dining out habits. We don't eat out almost at all anymore, but we get stuff to go, and Polly's is really good to go. So.
And if you want to go out for Thanksgiving, I highly recommend one year going to Brennan's.
Yeah.
I spent a couple years in that kitchen, slaving away on Thanksgiving, just getting crushed. But they do hospitality. No one does service better than Brennan's, and especially on the holidays. I mean, they go all out, and it's phenomenal.
They're famous for their Thanksgiving
meal. I think the last year I was there, in 9 hours, we did 1,400 covers. So that place can
which
pack.
Is insane.
Yeah, obviously they can't do it this year, but that place can pack people in, and they book up months out. So it's 100% worth doing that at least once.
So I have a few comments, and I'm going to circle back to a question. Is that Palooza, I'm not sure what it says cherry pink with an exclamation point.
Cherry what?
Cherry pink.
Cherry pink.
And then Meredith says classic Nola, Brennan's is a must. And then DB says my favorite mac and cheese. Thanks for everything. I really enjoy your time. So they're
Aw, thank you guys.
Hannah, however, asked how long to toast the mac and cheese with the breadcrumbs in the oven.
So we put it in initially for about 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes to warm it up. And we have it going for 15 minutes now. So it's definitely going to be hot all the way through. You're definitely going to get a little bit more color. So they were par toasted breadcrumbs.
I mean, I'm looking at them now. They can go a little bit longer, and we're at 9 minutes. So we're going to go over the full 15 minutes with the breadcrumbs on.
And I'm going to do something that I didn't do yesterday. It's going to just stir things up just a little bit. But I really like to get color, and I really like to get texture. So I'm going to broil for the last 5 minutes. Not everybody has to do this. If you're not comfortable using broil, don't just leave your oven exactly where it's at 375. But the broil is going to really get us some color on our bread for the stuffing, and the breadcrumbs on top of our mac and cheese. But you have to be really careful because you could just as easily burn everything. So Patrick's looking at me like, whoa. But we have 5 minutes left, so now's when I'm going to do it. And our oven's probably just going to turn off. Oh, I just heard it. Okay, so I'm hitting broil, 525, and then do not walk away. Don't look at your phone. Don't go attend to your crying child. Don't do anything, because once you have it on broil, you're certain to burn something if you walk away. So we're going to hang out right here. And while we're letting those last 5 minutes go, Patrick's going to start slicing our turkey.
So Someone said, have a drink before the in-laws show up is one of my favorite. Well, get yourself some in-laws that like to drink with you. Because usually I'm trying to keep up with their parents and their friends. Someone asked if they can save this until Thursday.
Yes, but I would.
You're pushing it. If you baked it off already with us, I'm not gonna recommend it. Obviously give it the smell test and the taste test. But what I'd recommend is just eat it and then go get the ingredients and do it again and tweak it to how you want it. Add that wine or add whatever.
Yeah.
And consider this a practice run.
We totally over prepped for this class when it comes to the stock because I am not that good at math. So if you want to redo this recipe, but you're baking it right now, my strongest suggestion would be don't try to save the stuffing for 7 days because that's definitely on the edge of too long. But we can sell you just the stock and the whole hog, and then everything else you can easily get at the store and buy some more bread, cube it up. And I think that would be really good, and you'll have already made it, so it'll be really easy the second time around.
Where was the bread from the stuffing again from him?
So it's Breadman Coper Company. He is in HEB and Whole Foods, but he's also at a lot of the farmers markets. And he's definitely at the Urban Harvest Market on Saturday on Buffalo Speedway in Westheimer. That's the market we do. And he makes really good bread, and he's working on expanding it and getting in more stores and stuff. But you can't find that just any bread, really. I mean, you can use store-bought loaf of bread if you want. It won't be as good as this stuff, but if you got a favorite bread guy, a favorite bakery, do that.
I've got a good idea. I think so. We'll have our stock available, the poultry stock. We'll go ahead and have it available at the farmers market too. So if you guys wanted to do like a one-stop shop, if you can make it to the farmers market this Saturday, we'll make it easy for you. You can get Breadman Co. bread. We'll have some stock. We'll have basically the same exact amount of stock available. We're gonna freeze it because now would be the time to freeze it, and then you guys can just thaw it out right before you use it, just by leaving it in the refrigerator for 24 hours. But yeah, we'll make that. It's gonna be delicious. Like, it smells really good. All the good herbs. Like, I can smell the sage right now. So it smells like Thanksgiving. So you can eat it tonight and then still really enjoy it again when you cook it on Thanksgiving. There's 1 minute and 45 seconds left. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Okay, you can see the color coming in on my stuffing, and then I'm gonna move, just for this last minute, I'm gonna move my mac and cheese up. Oh my gosh. This is when like smell-o-vision really would be key. I think we've got a few more years before we're ready for that. It smells really good. The sage is really coming out. The leeks are really coming out. You can see the nice color. If I had cheese on top, like, the cheese would be like perfectly good and melty right now. I've got a little crispness, but it's also still soft on the inside, which is great. That's gonna be so hot. He doesn't care. Okay, so I'm gonna go move this over to my table, and then we'll come get the macaroni and cheese. Okay. Put my spoon in there. Just remember, your pans are coming out hot. So I have my hot pads already on the table. All right. For all you doubters with the broil, look at that beautiful color. This I'm gonna put right on my table. Then everything we want is on our table, ready to go. And I'm gonna make myself a nice little Thanksgiving plate. Huh.
So we're gonna show you, we've got our table set up and everything, and move the stuff.
I love when you beat
And we're back.
Disconnect. Can you connect and disconnect?
I'm gonna go ahead and build it right there while we're disconnected.
Yeah, she's gonna move to the.
Is it on?
Oh, I
Are
see
we
what
on?
it's doing, yes.
All right, sorry, battery died in the camera, and we couldn't get it reconnected. So we're gonna do the camera from the computer. Erin wants to show you the plate that she built with the food, but we're done. So your food should be done, if not almost done. And here is the food, a full plate.
The steam coming off of the mac and cheese and the stuffing is amazing. I'm about to add gravy to all of it because I just put gravy on everything. And then, of course, dessert. And guys, this is really good. We're not eating this on Thanksgiving, so I'm actually going to sit down at my table and eat this like a proper Thanksgiving meal right now.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We'll take a couple minutes to answer any questions, comments, to hit us.
Yeah.
Or you want to just?
I was gonna let people speak.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
We're gonna turn the sound on so you can yell at us.
Where was it? You the screen change. So how do we get back to the? How do we get back to unmuting? The way we did. No, the people.
Change the view.
I don't know. I think we're just gonna have to. go
No worries.
for
So we're not gonna unmute it, but you can yell at us through typing.
it. Courtney had fun. Next time she'll work on knife skills and grab a good cooking partner.
Oh, it takes years to get those knife skills. You gotta cut yourself. How did we meet? Oh, we worked for the same company. I was working at Underbelly, and the company hired her to originally set up the menu for Blacksmith, and then she ended up redoing the menu for almost all their concepts.
Mm-hmm.
So I never drank coffee until she started working at Blacksmith.
That's actually what led to us coming to Greenway, too. David
Yes,
Buer
that
from
relationship
Greenway
we have
Coffee.
with David Buer, his original place was Greenway Coffee, and then he opened up Blacksmith. So you guys have David Buer to thank for this.
Mhm.
I was working for C. Shepherd. He was great.
Yeah.
Chris was awesome.
He's still a really, we consider him a mentor, really helpful guy. He still does a lot to support us.
I mean, he sent someone by today to get food from us.
Who?
So a friend of his.
Oh.
So he, I mean, he's kind of the godfather of Houston, and there's a reason for it.
Somebody was asking about the Greenway connection.
Yeah,
So now you
yeah.
guys know. Well, it sounds like you guys really enjoyed cooking with us. We really enjoyed cooking with you, and we really appreciate you guys spending the last hour and a half with us.
Open a spot out in Cypress. How about Spring Branch? It's a lot closer to home.
Coming 2021.
So we did right before the pandemic. We signed a lease for a second spot, and it's going to be on Long Point.
Mhm.
And we just started construction, and we should hopefully open in April. And so
Yep.
we'll be open on weekends and night, and the parking will be easy, so it'll be a lot easier to get there.
Yeah, if you don't work in Greenway, if you work in Greenway, then there's nothing more convenient than eating at the hub. But if you don't work at Greenway, if you work at one of the other buildings, Spring Branch is coming soon, and it should be, another option for you.
Yeah, that Bama sauce on that turkey is going to be really good. New different stuff at Spring Branch. Yeah, it's going to give us an opportunity to do some stuff that can't quite pull off in the Greenway location. One thing, we're going to do dinner service and some more fried options, and
It's just composed dishes. So we'll have the same barbecue menu, but we'll expand on top of that. We'll have, some of the stuff that like we did in our earlier career, some more composed foods. But the menu will be really exciting. But all the barbecue stuff, we're going to try to, if we create new sides, we want the sides to be available at Greenway too. So we want to kind of keep those menus similar.
yeah, and this will really give us an opportunity to bring in some of our barbecue friends outside of Houston, outside of Texas, and do some cool stuff with them. So again, it's just stuff we couldn't really pull off in Greenway. It's hopefully do some really cool stuff.
Well, guys, it's been fantastic cooking with all of you. We really appreciate it. We hope everybody has an amazing Thanksgiving.
Don't forget to tag, post pictures, post videos.
Tag
Tag us
PKY Houston, tag Feges BBQ. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Someone enjoy your $100 gift card. I
Good
see
night.
Melissa doing. Where do we enter? Just post on social media. I guess Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Obviously, Instagram is the biggest thing right now. If you tag both of us, Kateri is gonna pull your name and put it into a hat. But yeah, it was just a way to kind of for you guys to show us how it turned out. Tell your coworkers. We'll probably do more of these classes in the future.
Yeah, so follow Parkway. That's the best way to learn about the other classes that they have going on.
They're
So
doing a ton of stuff.
Yeah, there's cookie decorating. There's
A painting class tomorrow
Patrick's
that is
doing
too
it.
late to sign up for, but they're doing another one in a couple weeks.
They do them all the time. So if you follow Parkway Houston, you'll know about all of these things and you'll get to take advantage
They're
of
doing something with Eighth Wonder coming up soon.
cocktails and appetizers. But there's a cuter name and I can't remember it.
Crudité. Cocktails and crudité.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, we're going to sign off. Thanks, guys. Melissa got it. She told you guys what to do. Tag us. Get that $100. Y'all enjoy your meal. Thank you.
Good night.
All right, I need to end.
Give it to him. Well, the stuffing came out great.